Okay, yeah, sorry, excuse that. I guess my OBS isn't set up very well here. Was gonna have just a little intro screen for a couple minutes to let people get in, but we are gonna go ahead and start in that case. So we will chill here for a second though while everyone joins. Let me know if you can hear me. Let's see. All right, we're starting to get a couple people in here. If you guys can, let me know if you can hear me over the stream. Start ranting away. I don't mind at all. This is going to be a really informal stream because honestly, we said for a couple weeks in a row, like, how do we even recap these games at this point? They're just pathetic. This is the biggest loss in Jaguars history. Like, I don't give a shit what individual statistics are with this game at all. They just suck. Like, it's that simple, right? So, yeah, let me know if you guys can hear me and start firing away. But we'll give it a couple minutes for more people to get in. Gotta look through this. Oh my gosh. See if Tankathon's updated. There we go. 2 and 9. Oh my gosh. See if we got any Doug Pearson fired. Nope, not yet. Hope it's both of them. Here we go. All right, you guys can hear me. Nice. Yeah, clowns all around. Oh my gosh, man. Like, I trust the Lions, right? I trust them to take care of business when they need to take care of business. I was still a little concerned that going into this game, that they would win by a margin that would give Shad Khan the chance to not turn things over. Thankfully, this was the biggest blowout in Jaguars history, defeating another one at the hands of the Lions. So I'm very thankful for that. And honestly, like, you're going to be able to tell this decently. I'm not really that mad about the result of this game. I'm very happy that this team just got its shit kicked in because they deserve it. I mean, honestly, this team deserves it. All the freaking pride and talking up themselves before the season and saying they're the best team in Jaguars history. You didn't even win a freaking playoff game last year, let alone make it there. You're comparing yourself to a team that almost made the Super Bowl. Multiple times you could say that, actually, for Jacksonville. And your record now is going to be worse this season than what Urban Meyer's Jaguars had. It's going to be worse for this team. And they deserve every little bit of that. So, yeah, here we are. Hopefully we got some more guys in here. Comment away. It's going to be pretty informal, so I don't have anything all that planned for this game because individual stats, who gives a crap? I will just run through it real quick, though. Mac Jones, not a great game. Played okay, but didn't do anything. Does this not say what you need to know about the Jaguars' rushing attack? 12 carries, 27 yards. Fucking atrocious. I mean, what do you say? Just atrocious, right? Receiving game, Brian Thomas Jr., solid day. I think he also had a catch that got overturned that would have probably made this even more. And other than that, just, pretty much nothing from this team. Defense, 0 sacks on the day. Didn't really play that well. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, you just got complete domination from the Lions. 24 of 29, 412 yards, 4 touchdowns. Everyone got a touchdown today on that team. It was like the Oprah Winfrey meme. You get a touchdown. You get a touchdown. Now, I'm thankful as a Amon-Ra St. Brown fantasy football owner, I guess. But this is bad, right? Brian Branch having a good day, showing off. He kicked in Evan Ingram's shit pretty early in the game. I don't know. That's just always going to be a frustrating one anytime you hear about Brian Branch because he should have been a Jaguar. Best player available, fit the biggest position need, and Still didn't draft him. Just ridiculous from them. Yeah, new beginnings. Yeah, it's going to come. I hope really bad that this is just going to get everyone fired. And there's no excuse at this point. Like, I'm not going to freak out too much if Trent Baalke isn't fired tonight or tomorrow. But why is he here? His team is ass. He's had every resource that someone could ever have as a GM. We had tons of cap. We had draft picks out the ass. We had a team that was in line for Trevor Lawrence, and he's done everything wrong with that. And obviously, I don't mean that 100%, right? Like, he's had some hits. But for what the standard is, he is so far off of it, and he's been so far off for so long. He has overspent and had more resources than almost every other GM out there every offseason at his disposal, and his results at the absolute ceiling were 9-8 in a playoff win against a team that was known for being choke artists. I went to the game. It was great. Still, that's what the Chargers are. They're choke artists. So that's the crowning achievement of this regime. It's pathetic. It's honestly just pathetic. And it's pathetic that we went into this year being told by this team all these things about how great they were going to be. Best team in Jaguars history. What a joke. I mean, what an absolute joke. This team might lose to the 2020 Jaguars. It might be the worst in Jaguars history, if not second worst. 20th birthday next Sunday. Happy birthday ahead of time to you, Scrubber Ducky 500. Thanks for being a member on the channel. Yeah, it was a good gift, right? I'm glad it was just a complete annihilation today. That's honestly what I was rooting for. I'm not even going to hide that. Because at the end of the day, like with the tanking stuff and rooting for your team to lose, the ultimate goal of that is to win more games in the long term, right? It's to move on from what's not working and to be successful. And so that's how I justify it, and I'm fine with people rooting for that. I don't have a problem with it. Now, if you're rooting for the team to tank when they're like actually having a chance of being successful and maybe you have a new regime that's trying to succeed, like, it's a little different, right? Completely different story what we've got right now. Atlas Advice says, could have drafted Brian Branch. Now he's laying it up on our tight end. Yep. That's how it works, man. You know, think of another guy. Oh, we could have used a center this offseason, couldn't we have? What, wasn't there a guy available? Oh, yeah, Jackson Powers Johnson. Goes to 44. Don't trade up for him. Zach Frazier, sitting there at pick 48. We skip him. Decide we don't need him. And what do? We pick Mason Smith, and he's inactive every single week. Doug Peterson went to his grave, making sure that he was inactive for every single game. And I'm not saying this as if Mason Smith was going to be some incredible player for us. We don't know, right? He's a rookie. He's a very raw player. He's sure as hell not getting experience right now. But that's what we chose over this. And this delusional, infighting organization can't get him on the field or even give him a chance because they want to spite each other's faces. Instead, they're cutting off their own noses. That's where we are as a team. I guess, well, we don't have any more comments yet, and I don't blame you guys. What do you say at this point? I think at this point, it seems pretty likely Jacksonville's going to have the first overall pick. It's hard to imagine that not being the case, and what's worth noting is a lot of these other teams are probably going to need quarterbacks, right? You're arguing that for the Raiders, the Giants, and the Titans for sure. At most, Jacksonville gets one more win, right? And then I guess that matches some other records, but I think these teams will all win one more. The Browns, if they're the first overall pick, I think they have to take a quarterback. Hard to imagine that not being the case. That would get people fired there. It's hard to imagine Jacksonville being in a spot where they're not taking the best non-quarterback in the draft at this point. Even with a schedule that seems not that hard, playing the Texans next week, which that'll be a hard game, but the Texans aren't as good as what people think they are. The Titans, they're at least competing. in games. I think they might just destroy Jacksonville at this point, especially without Lawrence. And I think he's probably not going to play again this year. Hard to imagine any reason why he would. The Jets, they're going to have a lot to fight for still. Even as defeated as they are, I think they win that. The Raiders, you see them still playing decent football, or at least somewhat competitive. They'll outplay us. The Titans, again, maybe a split between them. And then in Indianapolis, Jacksonville doesn't win there. It's very rare they do. Obviously, we did last year, but it's just a place they've generally struggled as a team. So that probably leaves this team 3-14 at that point, which, what do you do, right? But yeah, we'll see if anything's happened. I don't think we're going to get any news on this team until at the earliest tonight. But based off the story, I'm pretty sure that it's going to be over. Just reading through this and the way it was worded. Because it was basically said that if this loss was a really bad loss, it was going to be over for this regime. And this was the worst loss in franchise history. You can't get around that, right? But yeah. All right, let's see. Scrubber Ducky 500 says, who do you think will pick, Will Johnson or Travis Hunter? If Hunter is the pick, is Christian Kirk gone? I would hope we would pick Travis Hunter. It's one of those things where, look, there's going to be a lot of good options, right? A lot of great options. We'll put it like that, at the very top. Now, if you're picking like in the teens, you might have nothing left. You might be picking a guy who could arguably be a second-round pick. That's just the nature of this draft class, because there's a lot of really good players at the very top, and then it just falls off a cliff after that. But I think as much as really anyone you take should be really good, Travis Hunter is a generational type of prospect, right? And doesn't mean he's going to be the best player ever in the NFL. Things can always go south. It's always possible. But Travis Hunter, I mean, he's playing phenomenal football on both sides of the ball. And I genuinely believe right now that he is going to play both ways in the NFL. I am not going to be one of those guys who just tells you over and over that he can't do it. He said that's his plan. That's everything they've pushed. He's going to try it. I think it's going to work for him. And if you can get an elite defensive back and someone who can be an elite receiver and has surely elite ball skills on both sides of the ball, is a playmaker, you have to pick that. Like, as good as Will Johnson is, he provides, like, half of what Travis Hunter's ceiling is at the end of the day. Even if you like him more as a cornerback, the value of what Travis Hunter can do at two positions just outplays that. So it would have to be Hunter to me. And as far as if that would impact Christian Kirk, I don't really think it would. I think Christian Kirk is, regardless of this, just in a situation where he's probably gone. And best case scenario for him sticking around is if the new head coach and the new GM like him, they get a deal done with him that's far cheaper, and they decide to keep him around on that. But this should not be a situation where he's getting paid $18 million. I think you're looking at more like, somewhere between $6 to $9 million, just because he's been hurt a bit, and I don't think he's going to be able to demand that much. So that's what I'm looking at with Christian Kirk. But, if I have to, I'll just play Parker Washington, right? You got Parker Washington, Brian Thomas Jr., and Travis Hunter at receiver. And with Gabe Davis, at this point, I would probably just try to trade him off, even if you got to pay someone to do it. He hasn't done anything in Jacksonville. I don't see that changing. I thought that was a horrible decision at the start. Gave it a chance, and obviously it hasn't worked out. Is OT the pick? If we're just talking about, like, if you have a ton of prospects who all play one position, they're all as good as each other, who do you pick? Yeah, it would be offensive tackle, arguably. And that would be the way I would go. However, the offensive tackle group in this class really is not as good as a lot of the other positions. Now, you hear a lot about Will Campbell and Travis Hunter, or sorry, not Travis Hunter. Oh my gosh. No, about him, Kelvin Banks Jr., and some other guys, Arante Ursary. But for me, the top guy in this class got hurt. And that's Josh Simmons. This is my big board, by the way. You guys should be able to get this in the description, or you can go over to my page on Twitter, and it's at the very top. This is available for free to you all. Josh Simmons, for me, is the 8th overall player in this class. He's my top tackle. I think you should be able to get someone who's not far off from the very top of this class with that second rounder if you want to trade up. And that would probably be the way I would play this. I'd be looking at Josh Simmons late in the first. As good of a player as he is, we see a lot of people who are hurt fall down the board, and that's something you could take advantage of. And if I was the GM, that's something I would be doing, because you're going to get some really good deals with that. So that's what you got to consider, right? Offensive tackle, I just don't think can be the top option for that reason. And yeah, especially if we get Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel, they like their trenches. I totally get that, right? That's going to be an emphasis for this team if you get any of those kinds of players, or sorry, coaches. And regardless, it should be. Like, the way this team has performed in run blocking for years is disgusting. And this goes back to before this season, right? And before this regime. We'll actually look at this real quick. I'm just going to go through the years here. Where the Jaguars rank in run blocking? This season, they are 23rd in the NFL. Last year, 31st. Fits those shirts they were wearing. 31st best offensive line. They were 30th the year before, tied for 30th with another team. 2021, they were 28th. This goes back a while. I think it's like 2017 is the first time you get a good year. 25th in 2020, which this was one of the worst teams we've ever had. Might be the worst. 2019, 25th. 2018, 13th. So 2018 is the first time in recent history that this team was a good run blocking unit, or had a good run blocking unit. So it's been a long time. That has to be a focus for them, right? And I think you got to do it the right way, because you don't want to just throw picks at players who are going to be average and then have to be stuck with those guys, right? Like, I would be looking at the ideal opportunities that you have. So like last year, for me, I think the only guy I would have brought in, or like long-term piece I would have got, was Jackson Powers-Johnson, because he fell in the second round. We knew he was going to be one of the best centers in the NFL at a point, and you could have traded up just a few spots to get him. So easy move, right? And you're getting a player who's really safe. I think this offseason, you're looking at probably an affordable veteran player, maybe for that right guard position, lock down the interior. You have Anton Harrison at right tackle. You're going to have to draft the left tackle. It's hard to imagine you not having to, but I would be looking at guys in free agency as well. I think like Cornelius Lucas would be an example of someone who would be affordable and a pretty good player. I think you're going to have to figure out something at center, ideally. And there's some guys in this class that are exciting. I'd probably say Parker Brailsford would be my top guy, but we'll talk about him more once we get close to draft season. We'll see if anyone's been fired yet. I highly doubt it. They're probably in the meeting right now. Oh boy. I'll just click off the post below that. I'm gonna have to watch this this interview. I might hop off here for that, actually. We don't got too much to talk about at this point. Mason Graham as well. Yeah, Mason Graham's a phenomenal player. Totally get it. I just don't think he's the best player in this class. So, like I said, a lot of ways you could go that would be fine, but was it the best player you could get? It's kind of like the Trayvon Walker, gosh, jeez, very forgetting his name. That's how dead I am inside. Aiden Hutchinson debate, right? Although Walker was obviously a lot more of a risk. Like, hey, Walker's worked out, but Hutchinson was also, leading the NFL in pressures well after he got hurt this year. So you just want to try to be safe, right? And that's something this organization's been really bad at. They've picked a lot of players that have been risky. Hasn't always worked out. But, Mason Graham, not a risky pick. Will Johnson, not a risky pick. It's just try to get the best player. Don't overthink it too much. But with that all said, I think we are just going to wrap it up here, guys. Whenever that firing happens, because it's going to happen for one or the other, or both, I'll go live again. Hopefully it's tomorrow, just because I want to get work off and have a deal in place with my boss to get work off if it happens. So we'll see. But before we hop off, just want to give a shout out to our channel members, Premier Nasir 904, Mr. Dolphin, Scrubber Ducky 500. Thanks for being in here. And Brian Foster. Appreciate y'all being here. Let me know on Twitter what you think if you want. Glad to talk to y'all there in the comments here.